Hello and welcome to week 2 of Health 135. So I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know each one of you last week in your discussion board postings. And so if I haven't already, I will definitely be personally responding to each one of you for this first discussion board because I think it's so important that we build a community and that it's important that I personally welcome you to the course. Now I will say that throughout the course of the semester, I can't promise that I will always be responding to each and every one of you each and every time you have a discussion board because then that's all that I would be doing. But I definitely read all of them and I will be hitting some of your comments and responses as we go throughout. But for this first discussion board, I definitely want to make sure that I personally welcome you. So last week we really started looking at the interrelationship of the three main topics that we're looking at in this course, which is health, safety, and nutrition. And so this week we're going to start actually getting into some deeper details about children's health. So I think that we would all agree that children's health plays a humongous role in children's development, not just their physical development, but also their cognitive development, their language development. And so we need to make sure that we are aware of what is healthy for children. And so this week we're going to start looking at children's health starting in chapter 2. So I wanted to show you what is in this week's module. So again, here's your landing page. You will also see that I was able to add our announcements right here on the home page. So now you don't need to click over to announcements, but if something happens and yours does not show up, everything is here. So when you go into our modules for this week, you're going to see week 2 is children's health. And so our page for this week looks like this: factors that promote the health of young children. So you see that this really is unit 2. And so we are going to be spending a couple of weeks looking at children's health, but each week is going to be something a little bit different. And so you'll kind of see we're going to be looking at common disorders, medical problems, how to prevent communicable diseases, and quality indicators at an early childhood environment that will promote children's health. So this week, after you read chapter 2, you are going to begin working on your first graded assignment, which is a growth brochure or flyer, and I will walk you through that when we get to that point. So you will see that for this week you need to read chapter 2. Here's the PowerPoint that goes along with it. This is also a great training for you to be able to just kind of get some additional information. It's a short video, so I would definitely recommend watching that. It's also going to give you some great information for your assignment. And so your 2 assignments for this week is to complete a discussion board posting, as well as work on the growth brochure and flyer. Now, the discussion board for this week is focusing on children's health, and the information that's taken from this very short video, only about 5 minutes, is actually taken from something called the ECHRS, which actually stands for Early Childhood Environment Rating System. So if you're not familiar with the rating system, in the state of Virginia, early childhood centers can volunteer to be part of something called Virginia Quality. And so what that is it's kind of a program that allows trained raters to come out to centers to kind of look at a variety of different indicators that then is going to determine where they are on the quality scale. So there are 5 levels that early childhood centers can attain. Levels 4 and 5 actually deal with using the ECHRS, as well as another resource which is called CLASS, which is something that you'll focus on in CHD 205. But just so you can see, this is the huge book, the All About ECHRS. It's the big yellow book. We never ask you to buy that book because it's so expensive, even used. So anytime that we're using something from the ECHRS, we're actually going to be providing it to you. And so once you watch this video, then what you're going to be doing is something called a 3-2-1. So when you start your new thread on the discussion board, you're going to list 3 things that you learned while watching the video, 2 ways that you can apply it either at home or at work. But then I want one question. So maybe you were confused about something. Maybe you were surprised about something. Maybe you want to know more about something. And so this is one that I will be responding to each of you, unless several people have the same question, and so I don't need to repeat myself. But again, one of the main things that we want to do is we want to make sure that we take the information from the textbook and the resources and make it practical and applicable for you. And so that's really what this video is meant to do. So that's a discussion board that you have for this week. But the other thing that you're going to be working on is going to be the growth brochure or flyer. So this is going to be something that I hope that you enjoy working on because you can have complete creative license with it. And so you're going to be using information from chapters 1 and 2, the videos for this week, to create something that hopefully you're going to be able to use in the future. So you're going to be creating a brochure, a 2-page flyer, something that's going to creatively highlight at least 10 milestones of growth for each age group. And what I don't mean the standards milestones, what I mean is what are like the benchmarks? What are children at the different ages doing? What should we be expecting to see from children at these different ages? In your textbook, it's actually going to have a chart that breaks these things down. The most important thing to know is that any information that you take from either the textbook, one of the videos, an outside resource, you have to cite it. So this is something that is factual. So you're not making anything up on your own. You truly are pulling together resources that basically are meant to help you as a teacher, but also to be able to give to parents. So that way, if parents are wondering, you know, is my 12-month-old where they're supposed to be? Is my 18-month-old where they're supposed to be? You have already created a resource that shows this is what we can expect to see. Again, this is typically developing, and always remember that when we talk about typically developing, there's always going to be children on either side of that curve. But for the most part, if we were looking at what we should expect to see typically in infants, toddlers, and then preschool through early age, this is what you're going to be putting in your brochure. So again, if you're going to cite the information, which you need to do, and however you choose to do that is fine. If you have a section where you have taken information from the textbook, well, at the very end of that section, just put the citation for where you got it from. Again, if you're not sure how to do citations, how to use APA formatting, I've put a link to the TCC library that has a fantastic resource on how to cite just about anything. So whether or not it's a textbook, it's a video, if it's a web page, you name it, they have got the answer for you. So definitely become familiar with that. And for those of you who are freaking out because you say, I've never made one of these before, my colleague Jeannie Hopkins over on the Portsmouth campus created a tutorial to kind of show you here's an easy way that you can do it even in Microsoft Word. But have fun with it. Be really creative with it. You know that if you were to just hand parents a blank white sheet of paper with some writing on it, most of them are not going to read it. So you want to make it something that's going to be visually attractive so that whoever you were going to give it to is actually going to want to read it. So feel free to branch beyond Microsoft Word if you are familiar with other publishing websites. Even Publisher and Microsoft is another great resource. But again, just have fun with it. But if you are not technologically sound, please do not freak out thinking that the majority of your grade is coming from how creative it is. And all honesty, the majority of your grade is coming from what's the information that you put in there. And please, please, please check your spelling and grammar. Nothing is worse than handing something to a parent who looks at it and immediately notices all of your spelling errors, because then they have a really hard time believing that you're qualified to teach their child. So make sure that you double check, triple check, do all of it to make sure that you have everything in perfect spelling and grammatical order. So that's what you're going to be doing for this week. This is going to be due not this week, but the end of the following week. So at the end of week 3. So you have 2 full weeks to work on it, which should be more than enough time to get it done. But if you get it done before the due date, feel free to turn it in early, because as students turn work in earlier, then I get it graded earlier. But again, I do hope that you have fun with this, taking the information and putting it into a practical format. So that pretty much takes care of Chapter 2. We'll continue with Children's Health in week 3. So have a fantastic time this week learning about children's health and starting to work on your growth brochure or flyer. And I will see you in week 3.